Got it.
All right, and welcome to Inspiring Possibilities podcast. With Miles. Miles and I are part of a group together, and I want to bring him on to share his story and his experiences, because it is just amazing, and can't wait for you guys to hear it. So, Miles, welcome, man.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you for even, allowing me to be here today, allowing me to speak. I'm excited to be here and definitely excited to share. So whatever you want to know, I'm an open book. We can get into it all.
Awesome, man. First, I gotta say that you and I already, I feel like, on the same wave. Like, I see Kobe in the back,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm a Kobe fan
Oh
from number
yeah.
eight to number 24. You know what I mean? So that's my man. So I know, like, we have the same mindset. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
awesome.
It's Mamba mentality. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a while to get it, to see the Mamba mentality. That was lovely. And I appreciated it to see the athlete, but to actually obtain and walk in the Mamba mentality, that's a whole nother situation. That's a whole nother level right there. So that's what I'm walking in now. So this is my favorite athlete, definitely my favorite basketball player of all time. And it's my new inspiration in life and in business and moving forward is to really have that Mamba mentality with all that I plan on doing. So yeah.
All right. So before we go into kind of like, you telling people, a little bit about you. So tell me about that, tell me about Mamba mentality. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
The Mamba mentality to me is really I'll just go to sports for a moment, and it's just easiest. Kobe Bryant played through just about every injury that was physically possible for him to play through. And when he tore his Achilles, which means he really shouldn't have been able to walk, he walked onto the basketball court, walked to the free throw line, shot 2 free throws, and walked off. He shouldn't have been able to walk, period. Okay. His Achilles tears, it pops. We watch it. We're like, oh, what's wrong with Kobe? I'm looking. I'm like, dang, I know what this is. I'm hoping this is not it. But then I see him walk back on the court. I'm like, oh, maybe that's not it. Because I've seen an Achilles injury before. But it wasn't. But his mindset was that it doesn't matter how bad the situation is. The most I can do in this moment is get these 2 free throws off. So that's what I'm going to do. Even though most people would say I'm going to just get off the court and I won't be able to do anything, Kobe's mindset was, I'm going to do the little bit I can do, no matter what that is. And also no matter how hard that is. And that's the mindset I have now, whether it's a big thing, a small thing, and no matter how hard it is, whatever it is that I can do, I have to get it done. Period. I have to. Not I want to, not I like to, not it would be cool to, not it's I started struggling, so I stopped. No. Torn Achilles and all, I'm walking on the court and I'm hitting these free throws. And I'm gonna do all that I can do, no matter what.
I love it, man. I love it. Like, there's so many. I think the more people go in depth inside of Kobe's story, then you understand the amount of energy, focus, determination, and mindset game,
Yeah.
right? That it takes to be great, right? Because Kobe was, more of like the MJ type. Like, I want you to fear me. Like, I
Yeah.
want you to, like, not sleep the day before me, versus more of a LeBron, which is like, oh man, high five, let's hug, like, I'm just happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just happy to see you. I'm not gonna not fall, just not sleep on time. So that's awesome, man. So tell us, for those that don't know you, right? Like, tell them about you.
All right, I'll start from the beginning. I am the third oldest of 6 children, born in Southern California back in 93. It was a good time. For those of you that don't know, if you're born in 93, this is the year you turn 30. Okay. And this is the year everything changes. No, so I was born in 93 in Southern California in the Los Angeles area. In 2008, we moved from California to Texas, which is where I live now. My entire life, I have been inside of the church. I wasn't always paying attention like I should have. I think most of us, if you grow up in church, especially as a little kid, you're probably not paying too much attention to what's going on. But at a young age, I started picking up on things. And at a young age, I wanted to share. So that's where I really started speaking at, was in churches. Growing up around the end of my 6th grade year, going into 7th grade, my voice changed. I used to have a really high pitched voice. And when my voice changed, my grandmother on my mom's side, she started telling me, you need to use your voice. I was like, what? It's like, you need to use your voice. I don't know what that means, but okay. And then sometime later, other people would tell me, you have a good voice. I like your voice. Do you like radio? Are you going to do radio? Are you interested in radio? No, none of that. And I start speaking and people are like, okay, I'm glad you're doing something because you need to use your voice. And it never really clicked for me. And I started ministering more. I became a licensed minister, but to me, that's just servitude. That's all that was. It was just servitude. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago that I decided that I would use my voice as a source of income. And I had to learn and figure out how to do that. And I realized that as I do that, I'm actually going to end up doing more serving anyways. Like, it's impossible for me to use my voice as a speaker and not serve the people that hear me. The things that I'm saying, I have to say something that pushes you to a new level some way, somehow. So, luckily for me, I ran across Jeremy Anderson on social media one day. He had this free speaker thing that he did. I said, let me take a look at that. And from there, it led me to joining the Next Level Speaker Academy, which gave me kind of the framework of how to do what I want to do. I've been speaking, like I said, I was young when I first started sharing. I was a teenager when I really started speaking to people and like, hey, I got a message for you that can really help your life. But that was only in the confines of the church. And when I decided that I was going to use my voice as a main source of income, I knew I had to get outside of the church and I had to help people as a whole. And I had no idea how to do that. I had no clue. So the Next Level Speakers Academy, shout out to Jeremy Anderson for that. Appreciate you. That has really helped to show me and guide me in how I can use my voice and help a wide range of people in all kinds of situations. But that's how it all started. It all started for me inside the church, and people continually telling me, you need to use your voice. And I had no idea how to do it.
So I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
My first one. So I've lived in North California for a little bit. And so my question is, there's not a whole lot of churches in Cali, in comparison to Texas. Right?
Oh, yes, a big difference.
There's like a huge difference. So that was my first one. I was like, man, like you probably like the one church out of like, the whole place, because it's definitely a difference between Texas
and California. It's a massive difference.
Right. Church in front of church. And Cali is like one church, and then 20 miles, 30 miles before you see another church. So
now there are some places in California, in Los Angeles, where it's like, okay, we have a church on this corner, and then up a couple blocks, we have a church on this corner. But California as a whole, like Texas is the Bible Belt. Okay. And there's a reason for that. It's very evident. California is not the Bible Belt. So there's enough churches there. Religion has showed its face in many ways, many places. Right. But when I say there's a difference between California and Texas, I mean, it's a massive difference. It's not close at all.
Although there's more people now from Cali coming in here. So,
oh yeah.
They're a little bit. So tell me about like your message, right? So
Okay.
what's your message?
The heart of my message right now is do something good. So if you see me on social media, you'll probably see that hashtag, do something good. You might see me with a shirt that says do something good. And that message comes, I'll give you kind of the story where that comes from. Growing up, my parents are ministers. Like I said, I've been in church my entire life. And that is a position of servitude. Some people think that all pastors make money. I'll tell you, most pastors don't make money. And if they do make a lot of money, it's not from the church. For the vast majority of preachers, okay? And so my dad was a guy who, he didn't make a lot of money inside the church. And actually for most of my life, he didn't make a lot of money at all. And in that situation, there was a time where we actually lost everything. I mean, we didn't have a place to live. We didn't have a car to drive. We didn't have the life insurance policies anymore. Like my parents lost everything. We ended up moving into a trailer with my aunt and uncle, Auntie Mary and Uncle Charles. So shout out to you too. Appreciate that. And they gave us a place to stay for a while. And from that moment on, we've gone to, I'll be honest with you, we've been blessed to have a bigger and better every time we moved from that point forward. But it didn't matter what position my parents were in when they had something, when they lost everything, and as they continued to grow. The entire time, my parents always were taking care of someone else. The entire time. Other people's kids, grown adults. You need a place to stay, I'm going to give you a place to stay. You need food to eat, I'm going to give you food to eat. So this is the first time in my life that I'm not living with someone who is not a part of my immediate family. And I turned 30 this year. This is the first time. My parents have always, when I say always, it's a short story. I went to Vegas one time to visit my mother's parents. On the way home, I tell my grandpa, we call him Big Daddy. I said, Big Daddy, this is the first time, it's been like 2 weeks at this point. This is the first time I don't remember someone else living with us. And he's like, yeah, before you were born, your parents were literally taking care of other people. So he's giving me this story, taking me to the airport to get back home. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like mom and dad really have always had a heart to serve people in one of the biggest ways I can think of. And they serve in many ways, and I'll get into some of that later. So we're having this conversation on the way to the airport for me to come home. Remember, it's been a total of 2 weeks that no one has lived with us. One of those weeks, I was in Vegas with my grandparents. I land, and long story short, when I get to the house, there's a lady there with her car. I'm like, who is this? My dad tells me she's a lady from California. We live in Texas at the time, and she had just moved in that same day.
Here's your roommate.
So it's like I get off the plane. I just told my grandpa a few hours earlier, man, it's cool finally having a house to ourselves. Yeah. And when I get to the house, it's not to ourselves anymore. So I've always seen my parents taking care of other people, no matter what. And I've seen what that does for other people. I've also seen what that does for my parents. So, thank God my parents don't need a place to stay. But if they did, there are multiple people who would gladly open up their doors and say, you can stay here. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to pay for food. You don't have to do anything. If my parents ask for something, there are people who I kind of refer to as extras. They're additional siblings, additional brothers and sisters outside of the 5 that my parents had. My parents can ask them for anything. Can I have $1,000? They're given $1,000. Now, they don't ask for stuff all the time, but from how they've served people so much, people will do anything for them. So I learned 2 things growing up. 1, it doesn't matter the situation that you're in. You can always do something good for somebody else. And doing good for them changes their lives forever. I have testimony after testimony after testimony of someone saying how being with us changed their life forever. And 2, the good that you do for other people comes back to you in massive returns. Absolutely massive returns. So the heart of my message, the core of everything I speak about, is to do something good, because this is the way we create the world we want to live in. I was speaking one day and I said, our selfishness creates a world that we hate. And when you think of all the things that we don't like about the world, it all stems from someone's selfishness. So if you're living in your selfishness, you're creating the world that you don't like. But if you're intentionally going out and doing good for someone else, at this point, you're creating the world that you want to live in. And you're also creating returns for yourself that you might know what the return is going to be, or at least part of it. But I highly doubt that you know the grand total of the return of your good for other people is going to be. So that's the heart of my message. And then I have messages surrounding that will help us to get there. I have a message on complacency. I have a talk on, it's titled, You Got the Juice. That shows how awesome we really are as individuals. Yeah. Because I've learned that for a lot of people, just not knowing who you are, how you are, what you are, that is going to be the thing that holds you back more than anything. That's going to be the thing that keeps you from trying. It's going to be the thing that keeps you from doing something good for somebody else. It's going to be the thing that keeps you from striving for your own goals and whatnot. It's all because of how you think of yourself. So I have a talk on that. My talk on complacency is one that comes from myself. I was complacent. Right. I was big time complacent. So There's multiple things that surround it, but it all goes back to how do we get to a point where we can do something good.
Something good for someone. Yeah, and I think, and I think it's definitely a strong message, right? To do something good. But I think inside of that, when you think of like, okay, my outcome or my reason for doing it is to do something good, right? But inside of that direction, most of the time, something unexpected, or some people can view as like something bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can happen. So take me
Most
to that.
definitely.
Yeah, right. Because I'm just thinking, I have 6 kids, right? My wife and I, we have 6 kids,
Oh, you
right?
just
So
like my parents.
there you go. So I know the chaos in the whirlwind that creates,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whenever we're there. And now just like to even bring in other people with their other quote unquote messes, or
Mm-hmm.
challenges, creates this explosion, right? And I think sometimes people in leadership role, especially pastors, have this tendency of taking care of everybody, right? So I'm assisting everybody. I'm taking care of, all those God's people. And then I can sometimes forget about my own little circle,
Yeah.
my own family. So take me
Yeah.
to that time, and I'm sure that you've experienced that, right? Take
I
me
can
to
talk
that
about that
time where,
specifically.
yeah, take me to a time. Take me to a time where, something like that happened, because I feel people can connect to that a lot, because some of them are, like either in a storm or getting out of a storm or entering a storm, right? One of those three, And so take me to that moment, and then what did you do to be able to navigate out or get the lessons from?
Okay. So as far as like specifically feeling like my parents are doing too much for other people, I've specifically been there. Again, there are people that call my parents mom and dad. Now, these people know who their mom and dad are. They lived with them, they grew up with them. It's like, why are you claiming my parents? So after some time, I really felt like, no, that's not your mom. That is not your dad. That is my dad. I have his blood. I look like him. I sound like him. He is my father. He's doing so much stuff for other people. And I started to get a little frustrated. Um, because I remember one time my dad bought a CD for somebody. And I was like, bro, you didn't even buy that CD for me.
Mm,
Like that was my thought. It's like you did not buy that. And I like this artist. You did not buy that for me. You bought the same exact album for somebody else. And I was just really frustrated. A thing that I had to realize is one, my parents are givers. That's what they do. Them giving to someone else is not a reflection of me. It is not based on how they feel about me. Their love for me is individual. Two, I had to realize I need to open up my mouth and say something, because the whole time I was starting to build frustration and resentment,
mm-hmm.
they didn't hear from me that I was building frustration and resentment. They didn't know that. I'm just sitting back watching them give to other people. And I'm like, dang, I would like to have this. I would like this additional time. I would like for them to not be spending the night tonight so I could have, my family. They didn't hear that. So one thing you have to be willing to do is to open up your mouth and speak. If you don't talk, I don't expect things to change. Just period. If you don't open up your mouth, I do not expect things to change. And then from the conversations that I had with my parents, I was able to see their point of view. And I was also able to see where my parents have done so much for us, for me. And I was a little bit ungrateful. Some of these people knew who their parents were, but some of these people didn't know who their dad was.
Right.
Some of these people didn't get to grow up with their mom. Some of these people saw their mom trying to commit suicide. And I'm like, how awesome is it that my parents love us? They kept us together. All 6 of their children were all close.
Right.
Even when we didn't know where food and things were coming from, we ate every night. Like we had, my parents provided everything that we needed. And there was times I was mad because they went the extra mile for someone else, as if I didn't have food that night, as if I couldn't go talk to my mom or my dad if I wanted to. So there's a few things. I would say the biggest one is to open up your mouth. The next biggest one probably be to pause and truly take a look at your surroundings and see the reality of your situation. And when you see the reality of your situation at that moment, you can think through, how do I need to pivot? What do I need to do? What questions do I need to ask? Who do I need to go to? But if you don't really take a moment to just breathe and look and see what's actually happened, you'll just sit in your frustration and you'll just run off of your frustration. And yes, it's never really good to just run purely off of frustration and not really have a plan.
No, not at all. I think so. Change perspective, take action, be grateful, right? That's kind of the big one. I always remember. I can't remember I think it's the name of the guy's Warren McDonald, and he was a guy that was a climber, and then he had fallen, and his leg got stuck in between like this huge rock, right? So he's there, he's pinned down, and his leg, he just can't move. And he was there with another guy, and this guy was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go and get help," because he couldn't move it alone, right? And so the entire time he's just there, laying there, right, the rock on his leg, and just can't move until finally, the guy I just met that day. You were just like his, they buddy people together, right? In case something happened, buddy you together, and you just go and climb. Something happened, somebody can go and get help. So he doesn't really have rapport. So he's fully trusting this person that he does not know is going to come back with help.
To save his life.
Right. And so, the guy does get help. They move him out. And what ends up happening is, because of the way the rock was, he just lost his leg. Like, he lost his leg from the thigh down. Right. So this guy is like very athletic, somebody that moves a lot, suddenly is like no legs. Right. So imagine this, right? You're an active person, and suddenly you don't have legs. Like, you just have something else that is, that is a wheelchair, and then maybe prosthetic to kind of help you. And so his life at that point, I can't
imagine that.
Right. That's insane, right? And his life just changes at that point, right? And he gets that place of resentment, right? I'm just really upset at God from like putting me in this thing. What am I going to do with this? Until he gets to this moment of understanding that he is living now in his different worlds, right? Where people are trying to help him, and he doesn't want to be helped, right? You know those people. I'm sure your parents have trying to help people. They're like, no, I don't want to know. I'm going to take care of my people by myself. And you're like, but you can't. I just want to assist. It doesn't put you down. It's like, no, I just want to do it by myself. So he got to that place of like really just, you know what I mean? Like just being aggressive and just no help. I'm going to do it by myself. And obviously that doesn't work, right? Because he can't climb, he has to crawl. Like, you just lost your leg. Like, you just don't know how to do anything, how to go to the restroom, how to go to bed, how to get dressed, how to brush your teeth. Like, everything is different because the height is also, different now that you don't have legs. Anyway, so he gets to that place of understanding that. And then he gets this realization that if he changes the way that he sees the world, from now, he definitely has a different vantage point, right? If you're 6'2", 6'3", and you lose your leg, you might be like 5'3" now, or you might be like, who knows, like 4'7".
Yeah,
right? It's a lot. Like, you're dropping, and it's like his vantage point is different, and so he changes the way he sees the world, changes his perspective. Like, hey, people are trying to help me because they're trying to assist me, not because they feel pity.
Yeah.
Oh, now because this thing, I actually have a message to share that can impact people that are seeing, in the example that you just shared, right? Of like, my parents are helping everybody, but like all of us, like, we don't have equal time now with you because you're always going over here. You're always helping this person. I was giving things away, and my birthday was not what I wanted to. You know what I mean? But as soon as you change the perspective, you change the world. And at that point, you make different decisions. Yeah. It changes everything. So that's awesome. So how do you think that shaped you as a man, right? How do you think, like, seeing all this and seeing your dad specifically, how did you feel that shaped you as a man?
I'll get to that, but one more thing I would like to say is also forgiveness is key for some things.
True.
Because there were times where I would say my parents did give too much. It was a mistake to give that much money at that time. It was not right to give that much time to that person at that time. But to hold on to that resentment does you no good. It does you absolutely no good.
It impacts you alone.
Yeah. It's like your life is going downhill now because your parents did a good thing for someone else. Like in my life, that's a lot of the anger comes back to my parents did good for someone else. And just the timing or the way that they did it affected me negatively. And sometimes it did have a real negative effect. So in that way, they needed to know how to do what they wanted to do, and they may have done it the wrong way. But allowing that to just fester inside of me, I'm not going to take too much time, but it does you no good. But to answer your question, watching my parents and all that they did, I believe that is actually part of the reason why I do the things that I do now. It gave me a heart, like I want to help people so bad. Like it's real bad. And now I kind of understand how my parents were able to get to the point where they would give so much.
Right.
Because it's like you see a need, bro, we got to fix it. Like that's how I feel. I got to the point where about 2 years ago, I started doing something. I started on Facebook and I moved it to Instagram, where I was like, hey, I have $25. This is all I have. And I thought it was nothing really. I was like, it's only $25. But I said, if you would like it, comment your Cash App on the bottom of this and hit the like button. So all the people who did that, I put them into a drawing. The person that won, I gave it to them. And that has grown now to where I'm like, hey, what bill are we going to pay? Comment what bill you guys would want paid, the bill that has the most likes. And I don't do it via Cash App anymore. I actually give away these gift cards now, these Visas that have my logo on them. And I give those that are filled with cash. I did one for gas. I was like, hey, anybody who likes this, put you in a drawing, and I'm going to fill your gas tank. Now, that one scared me a little bit because I have people, this is when gas was super expensive. And I know I have people in California who drive trucks. I know
on that premium.
Yeah,
I'll put premium today.
It's about to be in my pockets.
I'll put premium today.
Yeah, I did that. I did the light bill, and I was like, hey, whatever your light bill is, whoever wins this, I just need to see it, and I'm paying your light bill, period. And now when I go and speak, I actually bring these gift cards with me so that I can give money to the people who are there. And that's just part of me giving as best as I can, helping as best as I can. So watching my parents, it really showed me the need for people being willing to do. The need is massive. It's never ending. And it also showed me the result of it. People's joy when you meet a need, the joy that they have, the thankfulness that they have, that was enough for me to give. That's it. That was enough. When I first gave $25, it might have been the first or second time, I don't remember. I didn't know how someone would receive it. I had no clue. Remember, I thought it was small, it meant nothing. Now, if I give $10, I feel like that's a big deal because I gave something I did not have to give, and I don't know how it's going to bless you. But the person who won the giveaway, they sent me a message and they said, Miles, I'm so thankful for you. I didn't know what I was going to eat today. I had no idea where food was coming from, but now I have money for food for a couple of days, and I'm grateful. And I was like, I'm thinking $25 is nothing. He's thinking $25 is food for the next few days. And I realized that I've gotten many more testimonies since then, or just messages and thank yous, or just requests. Hey, I'm stuck in this place. Can you do $15? I've gotten a much bigger request as well that I was like, yeah, that's really bold of you.
Yeah, pay my mortgage real quick. I'm behind.
People, I've gotten that. Yes, I have gotten that. But people, like, even people who don't know me, they just see that I am willing to give.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, shoot, let me shoot my shot. Let me see what he's willing to do. And some of them come up and they get what they ask for. And others, I'm like, yeah, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. And it every time I have to say no, it breaks my heart, and it makes me get back to that Mamba mentality where I'm like, I got to push forward. I got to do more because I can't be in a situation again where I have to say no. Like that, I can't speak for everybody else. That tears me apart. When someone says, hey, can I get $200? I need to pay this, and I need to get some food, and my kid needs shoes to go to school. It tears me apart because I remember when we didn't have anything. I remember not having a bed to sleep in. You know, my oldest brother didn't go to school for a few days because he didn't have shoes to wear. I know what these positions are like from experience. And for me, anytime I can help you even if it's just for a few days, get out of that position, I'm going to do it. So that's how Washington shaped me. And now I am to the point where I am working towards, when someone asks to pay their mortgage, I can have it. I can do it. That's absolutely what I want to do. I want to get to the point where I am paying off houses, not this month, but you don't have to pay for this house anymore. It's taken care of. Like, I want to get, I saw Mr. Beast and I didn't know who he was until about a year ago. And I was like, oh, he's doing the stuff I want to do. I don't know if I want to do it the way he does it. YouTube is a whole monster in and of itself. But I was like, I didn't know other people were doing it. So that gave me motivation too. Right. I'm like, yeah, I have to get to the point where I'm taking care of people's worries, because it breaks me apart. And that's a gift and a curse. So it is what it is.
That's awesome. So tell me kind of like a time where, I was kind of like segue to that, a time where somebody tried to limit you, right? Somebody trying to limit you. And so take me to that moment. And then what did you do to overcome that?
A time where someone tried to limit me. That is a good question.
Because being, like turning 30 and having this heart of servitude, right? And wanting to do more for people, right? Age can sometimes be something, and there's a lot of other different things. But when I say that, right, what speaks to you? Like, what is the first moment that comes in and you're like, yep, that time. And then what did you do to overcome that moment? Because I feel people do go through those things and they don't fully know how to overcome it, and so they create that resentment piece of it, right? And then that just builds up.
One of the first things I can think of was someone limiting me or trying to limit me is when I made it be known that I'm a speaker, and I fully intend on getting paid to speak at places. And they were like, "You gonna charge people for the gospel?" And And I had a few things came to my mind quick, and I was like, "You can't respond to people that way." But some of the first things that I had to do was remember that I never actually said I was charging people for the gospel.
Right.
When I said I want to be a speaker, I was not speaking of my religious beliefs or backgrounds.
Right.
That isn't even what I thought of. They just know that I am a minister, so they immediately assumed that I was trying to charge people for the gospel.
That's where you're going to go.
That's not where I was going. So I was like, man, that's crazy. And then I did actually think on that further. And so the first thing I had to do was actually go to scripture. There's a saying that I heard from a rapper. He said, "Study a lie, they'll make new lies up. But study the truth, you'll know when a lie comes." And the thought that I can't charge people as a minister is a lie. I learned that that's a lie from scripture. Like, that's where I learned. And long story short, there are multiple scriptures that say that if you are speaking, if you are teaching, then you should be getting paid for such a thing. It's a long story short. It's not ambiguous or anything. It's very clear. You should be getting paid for such a thing. But also, I had to remember that that's not even my heart. Like, if you come to our church, you're not charged a penny for anything. You come and you learn for free. But then when I dealt with that, because they did want to hear my thoughts on that after I told them, like, hey, that's not where I was even trying to go with that. But since you mentioned it, here's XYZ. So we went through that conversation. And then I told them, like, yeah, I can't wait till the day when I'm charging $5,000 to speak. Then I'm charging $10,000 to speak. And they immediately came back with, "You think somebody's going to pay you $10,000 to go speak somewhere? Like, just for 45 minutes? Like, why would somebody pay?" And it was so fast. And I'm like, you have no faith in me, obviously. None. And so for me to get over that, the first thing I had to do was, one, I spoke to people that speak life into me. So anytime you're facing a situation, you have to have people in your circle that speak life to you. So when that negativity does come, you can hear the positivity to counteract that and to push you forward. 2, I heard from a speaker, and he mentioned how he gets paid $50,000 to speak for 45 minutes. I said, if he can charge 50, I can charge 10. And then I was fortunate enough. Everything I've done has not been intention. I don't want to act like everything I've learned comes from me knowing the right thing to do and going to do it. But I was blessed enough to be in a circle of people one day where a man looked at me, and this is where I get the title, You Got the Juice.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at me and he heard me speaking, and I was speaking with not enough confidence. I was not speaking boldly enough. And he's listening to me speak, and he says, I need you to change the way you're talking right now. Like, I can't listen to you talk like this anymore. And the reason you have to change is because you got the juice. I'm listening to you and I hear you got the juice. You got it. So from here on out, I need you to talk as if you know that you got it. I need you to speak as if you understand that what is inside of you is enough. And hearing that pushed me forward. So I did go and intentionally speak to some people that could speak life to me,
Right.
that could give me the better perspective. But also I had somebody that I could look up to who just heard me, and he just immediately. And sometimes that's what you need to hear. Sometimes you need to hear from somebody that you weren't expecting it from. But when he spoke that to me, I've been on a new level ever since then. Like,
Right. Yeah, he spoke.
Can't tell me nothing now.
Yeah, he spoke life to you and kind of give you this, this like what coaches do, right? A coach can see what you can't see because you're in the forest, but you only see trees, and he can tell like, hey, you're in the forest, like turn here, and this is how you get out, and it just makes a world of difference. So people modeling kind of the outcome, right, that you're looking for, which is like facts. Right, because I think sometimes whenever you have not done that, it can feel like fiction. But when you've seen somebody that actually done it, and you're like, "Wow, this is facts." Now I can
that's the study the truth part.
Right, I can look at the end, and I can just retrace the steps and get to the same place. Right, my heart is at the right place, and I don't get this shiny object syndrome or shiny outcome syndrome. I can get there. That's awesome, man. But Miles, we're coming to the end of our time together. I really appreciate you, sharing your story, with everyone. And especially, like your message about doing good. I think that's I almost, I don't know what I think about that, but I think of like the LG, life is good. They created their brand out of like that side, right? But it's something that, especially I think during COVID, that message was even more important, right? Because the news were creating so many false information and feeding off fear that people have, that people did not even want to do good for somebody because they're like, I got to take care of my own.
Correct.
Like this saying, I don't know if you've heard it. It says, to a drowning man, everybody's a stepping stone. If I'm drowning, my first reflex is to grab onto something to pull myself up. It's not because I want you to drown. It's just because like I'm drowning, so I have to reach to something. And and it's very rare that somebody can just take the attitude of like sacrificing, like, listen, I got you, like you can lean on me and I'll do my best as long as I can. And when I can't, but I'm not going to pull you down. So I appreciate your message. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, Miles, where should they go?
I would first suggest Instagram, because I'm very easy to reach there. You can find me, The Miles Brown Online, TheMilesBrownOnline, The Miles Brown Online. Real simple. My website is milesbrownonline.com. Real simple. TikTok, milesbrownonline.com. YouTube, Miles Brown Online. That's the way to reach me. So that's, if you want to hear from me more, if you have questions, if you want to reach out, if you want to do whatever, just hit me there. Again, Instagram is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
That's awesome, man. Do you have any like parting piece of guidance for somebody that just came to the end of this, this talk? What would you give them to be able to continue to, do good?
Two things. One, find out what you need and go and get it. A lot of us find ourselves in situations where we know we need stuff and we know we want better, but we don't take the actual steps to go and get better, to go and get what we need. And I know it sounds silly, but that small piece of guidance has changed many lives. You know what you need. Now actually go and do it. Go get it. So there's that. And then 2, we all have a way in which we can do good. I can't tell you the way that you can do good, and I won't try to tell you how. But what I can tell you is that when you intentionally find a way to do good, your impact becomes massive, even if what you feel like you did was minute. So intentionally find a way to do something good, your impact will be massive, and what comes to you will be greater than what you put out.
That's awesome, man. Well, Miles, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, man, and being in people's ear. And then, we'll talk again soon whenever, I know you have some other projects that you're working on. So whenever,
I'll definitely let you know.
Those get to where they are, we'll chat some more. So Miles, thank you so much.
All right, man. You have a good one.